good. That's our first trip into the Pacific Ocean.
Sailing the vast and wide oceans, waves crashing, emotions in motion, salt in the air, wind in my hair.
These boats are very, very capable, and they have circumnavigated, not these ones in particular, but there are boats that have, here you can see the standard layout, straight benches and cut through for the outboard. It's a transom, so that boat never had an inboard engine. Also the Traveler is here in front of the hatch, and it does not have the second hatch in front of the mast. Catalina 27, Cape Dory 25B, also a beautiful design by Carl Alberg. So you can see that T-shaped cockpit again, steering wheel, Traveler in front of the wheel at the end of the boom, not in front, and an extra hatch. Ericson 27 has actually quite a decent size galley. It's a L-shape as you would expect, but it really goes a little further back into that little nook here. That's perfect for a microwave oven or something like that. Plenty of storage for all your cutlery and plates and herbs and what else have you. Quite lovely actually. Really deep sink close to the center line of the boat. The pilot berth is also quite large here in that newer model, or this cruising version where they lowered the pilot berth. Some models have that up to here, so under here you would have the engine normally, under the companionway, and then pretty standard layout other than that. Two decent sized berths, a hanging lock up front, or a little shelf locker actually, and okay size V-berth. If you're taller than 6 feet, that might get a little tight for two people anyways. For one, not too bad. And what I like about this boat, in only 27 feet, it's right now packed with all kinds of stuff, but you get a decent size head actually. It's not cramped at all. I've been on 30-foot boats that had a smaller head like this one. And I got somewhat standing headroom in here. I'm 6 feet tall and I can stand in here upright. And she got that new modern cockpit layout, the T-shaped cockpit, available again after 1974 with steering wheel and the tall rig. It is a decent sized little cruising sailboat for being only 27 feet long. That's actually pretty beamy. It's a beamy boat with its beam of 9 feet. But you know what? I start rambling here about specifications. Why don't we go ahead and have a closer look at her specifications real quick. Alright you guys, the Ericson 27. Look at these beautiful lines. I'd like to point out to you how much of the boat is actually beneath the waterline, underwater. It's not your typical fin keel spade rudder boat that has like a dinghy hull almost and sits really flat on the water with a bolted keel. No, this one has an encapsulated ballast. The lead ballast in there is actually part of the hull. And the hull sits really, really deep in the water, which is fantastic. So it gives the boat kind of a It gives it a cut almost like a full keel boat when it goes through the waves. It really rides and slices through the waves in a very pleasant way instead of bouncing off of them. It's this typical, shall we say, wine glass shape when you look from the bow to stern. So she's a fin keel, spade rudder, masthead sloop, which means that the foresail goes all the way up to the mast top. And mind you, I just read a comment the other day, which was really clever to point this out actually, that we have to assume the standard sail plan here, and only if the manufacturer gives us actually the proper standard sail plan, all of the specifications here make sense. Otherwise, the resulting performance calculations out of the specifications are not working out, obviously. Meaning, let's say you change 100% working jib for a 130 Genoa. That changes everything. Alright, what we discuss here is the standard configuration. So she is made from fiberglass, really thick, hand-laid fiberglass hull. Fantastic. And one more time, the lead ballast is encapsulated, which I like, especially on old boats, because you do not have to worry about keel boats. So in production from 1971 to 1978 by Ericson Yachts in the United States, and Bruce King was the designer here. I'd say it was a very successful run for that boat, considering 1,250 of those have been built throughout this production run. The length overall, length of the waterline here, you can see waterline is relatively short, so she has gracious overhangs, and that is also part of the reason why she sits a little lower in the water, and that gives it a very sea-kindly motion. The sail area here with a standard rig comes up to 323. There's also a different tall rig version. I jump right to the bottom of the page here, of 344 square foot. So it gives you a little bit more sail area square footage wise, and the mast, I believe, is about 2 feet taller than the standard rig. She is pretty beamy. She is right at 9 feet, so that is impressive for a boat of that length. And displacement at 6,600 pounds with a ballast of 2,900 pounds, and her draft not even 4 feet. That is totally amazing. I like that a lot for a cruising sailboat. I know all the racers amongst you will now kind of twitch in their seats and be like, oh, want a deeper keel, a proper aspect ratio keel, and I understand that, but let's assume this is more a cruiser than a club racer. You can use it for both. It's a coastal cruiser, club racer, and yeah. However, even though she is quite nimble and gets up and you know, is actually quite fast for a boat of that age, especially with a tall rig, she is not your typical racer in many ways. That's not how she behaves, and that is what I like so much about it. If you look for a small cruising sailboat that is pretty stout, you should have this boat on your shortlist, really. The sail area to displacement with a standard rig is a little shy of 15, so kind of under canvassed. If you take the tall rig, everything looks a little better here. Ballast to displacement at 43.94, and that is because she has a very short keel, and that makes her maybe initially a little bit rolly. That's okay though. She stiffs out right away and then stays there. Now, a very interesting number, I think, is the displacement to length. At 342, that is pretty heavy. That is robust. Some people would say way overbuilt. Or you could strike the argument it is a pretty solid laminate schedule, and the boat is well built, and maybe that's a reason why people have even taken this boat, believe it or not, across an ocean. I want to point out to you, it has never been intended and designed to do that. So keep that in mind, please. The boats that have done that, the owners have done major upgrades and reinforcements in some areas. So don't think that the stock boat can cross an ocean just like that. That's not what I'm saying here. The comfort ratio, because she is so heavy and has a relatively short waterline and this beautiful wine glass shape to it that cuts like a hot knife through butter through the waves, gives her a comfort ratio of almost 25, which is respectable in my opinion. And her capsize screening formula is clearly under 2.0, which makes the boat self-riding. So that is very, very good. Sail number here at 1.3 and her hull speed over 6 knots. It will take about 660 pounds more or less to bring her down 1 inch. She was originally powered with a universal atomic 4 30 horsepower gasoline engine that was also in the boat that we own now, that we just purchased, and has been removed. And I'm very happy about that because I'm personally not a fan of inboard gasoline engines. However, there is a huge following of boats with that engine, and there is Moya Marine, and there are many ways to maintain these engines. There's even now electronic ignition for it and all of that. And because you can work with automotive parts, they are pretty efficient and easy to maintain. The only thing is you have gasoline inside a bowl, a closed vessel where it cannot escape, like underneath a car. So you have to be religiously working your bilge blower to make sure that you don't blow yourself up. That is my personal thing with inboard gasoline engines. That's why I personally do not like that much. 15-gallon water and 15-gallon fuel, or vice versa. So, and here it is. Most boats came with cutouts for an outboard at the transom and the rather traditional cockpit layout with straight benches and a tiller steering option here. Since 1974, Ericson Yacht offers the options like the T-shape cockpit, which is what we have with a steering wheel, that extra hatch in front of the mast, and inboard power. Well, again, ours is removed, so we have now also a bracket-mounted 9.9 Yamaha, which runs like a champ. It's good, it's sufficient. The interior liner was also redesigned. Some of the older boats have this higher pilot berth, which in my opinion looks a little cramped. I don't know why that is. I don't know what's underneath it. I would assume there's probably a reason for it. If you guys want to drop a comment on that, that would be greatly appreciated. Because I have not seen such a boat from the inside. I don't know what that design is all about. And the lower one now makes for a more spacious arrangement for the pilot berth back there. And then they also changed here the bulkheads from the mahogany ply to teak. It's a high-end alternative. Also tall rig available then, and like I said, 2-foot higher mast and consequentially more sail area. Alright, let's get back to the tour. So let's go ahead and tour the cockpit and the deck. So first thing that you might notice is she doesn't really have a proper bridge deck. So it has a lower companionway entrance, which is nice if you need to get in and out of the boat. However, for more serious sailing, one could probably place a bridge deck or something. I don't know, just food for thought. If not, I've seen people leaving the lower board in. She has 4 companionway boards, so the lower one, if that is locked in properly and made watertight with some gasket, that should be pretty good then, and still removable. So the cockpit scuppers are good size for that boat, about 1 inch in diameter. Hard points. emergency tiller. There's also like a middle deck here where the standpipe comes all the way up to. So it makes for a fairly strong arrangement of the rudder post. So 2 more scuppers here. The traveler sits right here on that front end of the T-cutout. This boat doesn't have its inboard engine anymore. It used to be an atomic 4 that would have been the power for it. Pressure pump here. TV and charger. Yes, there's also an old school wheel pilot. The helmsman can get to everything from here, self-tailing winches, also jib sheets. So you got your main sheets right here with the traveler. The jib sheet cars for adjustment of the sheeting angle have been placed all the way out on the tow rail, which is nice out of the way. And then the main companionway hatch unfortunately does not slide into a cover, which makes it less waterproof. There's handrails all the way forward and plenty of space here on deck to walk forward in comfort. Hence the shrouds, the side stays have been placed all the way out towards the tow rail. There's the extra hatch in front of the mast in that version, and this one also has a hydraulic boom vang. The boat does not have a modern anchor locker pan. Basically the chain runs down into the bow. The deck of the Ericson 27 is a sandwich construction, and the core material that has been employed here is balsa end grain. As you can see here, the non-skid is still in good shape. That has been molded directly in. And yeah, in some areas where higher loads are stressing the deck, they used instead of the balsa end grain marine ply. And that marine ply has been used, let's say, under winches and such. Here under that bench is no locker because there's a pilot berth. Here on the opposite side to port is a pretty decent size locker. Yeah, I know the electrics in here are open and that's not good, but anyhow, there's a 12-volt fridge module that runs the cold plate in the icebox. And there's a battery charger, and again, I apologize for that. That has to be cleaned up here somehow. Otherwise, that is a failure waiting to happen. Yeah, and as you can see here, she has now a Yamaha outboard engine, a 9.9 with electric tilt and start, which is actually quite nice. And there is the backstay chain plate, and then there's another locker, and yeah, the gasoline in there is also not ideal because this is not a vented locker. So I was trying to find a better solution for this, and that's why I made this little trunk here at the push pit or pull pit. And I was intending to run the fuel hose out of there possibly, but that's still up for debate. This used to be once upon a time the fuel intake. And the hull to deck joint is an outer flange, chemically bonded, and disguised here by a massive rock rail. You get the idea. Very leak proof, relatively strong actually, and because completely glassed over from the inside, even stronger and entirely leak proof. I like it. So the bulkhead placement is pretty decent. The inner liner in that area is actually glued to the outer deck mold, believe it or not. And placing the bulkheads like this makes for a pretty rugged arrangement here. That feels very strong. You can see here Everything has been through bolted, although they're kind of placed in a floating fashion. The inner liners being connected in parts glued to the outer shells hold those bulkheads in place pretty well. Access panels here for the electrical. On both sides. And the hull to deck joint is disguised by this panel here, same as the chain plates. Well, let's take that off and have a closer look at the hull to deck joint. It's an outer flange, and it has been glassed over from the inside, and it makes it basically one piece, which is fantastic. It makes for a very leak-proof and strong hull to deck joint. So now we can actually have a look at the hull to deck joint from the inside, and as you can see here, it has been glassed over completely, which is beautiful. So again, this is an outer flange that has been chemically bonded and bolted through from the outside, and then there's that rub rail that disguises the actual joint from the outside, and here from the inside completely glassed over, so it makes it 100% waterproof and even stronger. Let's see if we can see the chain plates if I take the panel completely off. So here it is. That's one of the shrouds. That's aft side stay here, the aft shroud, and this has been glassed into the hull. So also well done. It's very strong. It's connecting directly here to the hull and goes then through the deck up there. And I like that they put those little packs on top of it, which makes resealing and preventive maintenance relatively easy on the chain plates. This is where the engine used to be. It's pretty well spaced access box that can be completely removed. I'll show you that here in a sec. So the bilge first. She has a really nice deep bilge. Let me see if I can maybe put some light for you down there. So that goes down, you see the gusher hose and also the bilge pump, the regular one down there. And it's very deep. And the keel is encapsulated, so there are no keel bolts to worry about. Encapsulated lead ballast on the Ericson 27. And behind that, a very safe and nice deep bilge. I like that a lot. Oop. There we go. I should probably drill a hole into this here in the middle. It makes it a little bit easier to take the board out. By the way, this here is the emergency tiller. So it's a really good sized tiller actually. Most Ericsons would have the engine here, again this one doesn't. The prop shaft is still in, and there's a ginormous house battery. For electric, here's a 110 and the 12 volt battery separator and the charger here. And yes, the battery, the big one in here, the AGM, is pretty much dead. So the other batteries are underneath here, which is basically two marine starter batteries that are there primary for the engine, because 9.9 Yanmar here has an electric start and tilt and more storage. So I put that aside here. One can imagine if an engine was placed here like a little diesel or so, you could work around that engine actually pretty well. Right now we have this ginormous AGM battery in here, which is pretty well dead, so it needs to be replaced with a charger here on one side. I don't know if you can see that. There's a battery charger here. And then there's an on and off switch for the outboard engine. So if you park it for a little longer and you don't want anybody to steal it, make sure it doesn't fire up. There's your secret switch. There's some chain below And somewhere behind here you might be able to see the actual prop shaft. Although right now hard to get to because I put my deck cleaning brush down there somehow through the compartment. But yeah, the prop shaft is still in. So one could technically go with an electric conversion kit and turn this into an electric sailboat. For now we just have this massive battery in here, which I probably will replace at some point, either against another AGM of that size, or I don't know, maybe just lead acid, 3 of them. We'll see. The engine access is actually very good on the Ericson 27, as one can remove the entire box here, which is great. Port side SETI, plenty of storage underneath there too. There's a sonar probe going through, so one should not put heavy stuff into that compartment right there. Here's a separation bulkhead, fortunately, so hopefully this compartment would not take on too much water if something fails, because this is here basically a completely sealed off watertight compartment, except for that little light here. That would basically spoil the party. It's nice to have though, but you get the idea, right? Oops, wrong side around. And yeah, missing the backrests. I have to make some. And same thing here, if you get this off, get the idea. There would be plenty of storage behind that too. And we got this beautiful little locker here. Numerous shelves, lots of storage here too, and on top, and in front, and sideways, and up here in the V-berth also, and underneath the V-berth. Yeah, she is spacious for a 27-footer. This is quite a serious boat actually, not bad at all. There's one more bilge access point about right here that gets you, I think, to the pedal wheel or something else. And in the bathroom, this one doesn't have a sink and only a porta potty in there right now. But yeah, it can be retrofitted again. And plenty of storage here too. And even port light that opens for ventilation. And again, there's one of the chain plates. They got those little plates on top. I like that because it's easy to take off and reseal. And again, those chain plates have this little cover plate over, which I like because it's easy to remove for preventive maintenance, to reseal, recaulk. Yes, she's definitely due for a haul out and bottom paint job at this point. You can see the prop shaft is still in, like I mentioned before, so an electric conversion would be possible. And I really like this keel design. It's kind of a hybrid between a full keel with cutaway forefoot and a fin keel boat. So that's something that you see on a lot of cruising sailboats these days. You have this long fin keel, which isn't deep, it's just really like a long keel, like a longer fin keel, as you can see here. And that gives it a lot of lateral resistance, which is really lovely, and not much draft. It's less than 4 feet here on the Ericson 27. The rudder, unfortunately, is a typical spade rudder. I would have preferred a skeg-hung rudder instead, but yeah, that's not what you get here. It is a balanced spade rudder, which makes maneuvering easy. Then that's definitely the advantage of that. Now, and the boat has this nice wine glass shaped keel, and it really slices through the waves. It's a very kind and nice and soft motion out in those waves. And again, camera doesn't do it justice. As always, it's way wavier than it looks like. And the boat has a really nice entry to those waves, thanks to that lot of wetted surface a lot of boat sits underwater. She doesn't bounce off the waves like your typical fin keel would. So, you know, with an attached fin keel, I mean, a kind of very flat bottom. This is not the case with the Ericson 27. She behaves actually almost like a long keel vessel with a nice fiberglass shaped keel and a very soft entry into the wave. I like it.
Gefühle, auch Gefühle.
Willst du mal zu mir kommen? Ist das der wieder? Hold on to everything. Always no center of gravity. So. Mal rein für dich, dass du die besseren Channels siehst.
Yes, I know it's confusing. We speak a lot of English, as we call it. You know, mix between Deutsch and English. But yeah, that's the way it is.
Das ist immer reaktiv. Guck einfach nach vorne ungefähr, da ist die Brücke, haltet links davon. Weiter nach fort. Und immer schön decisive, große Steuerbewegung, Boat is coming back. Okay. Und dann wieder gegenhalten. Coming through the Newport Bridge, under sail. And helmsman Emmy is in charge. She does great. Right. Well, the engine is out of the water, fuel becomes very easy and it doesn't matter as long as it's back up to the marina against current and against the wind. It's very technical sailing, a lot of back and forth, but it's fun. It's great. You get speeds of over 5 knots.
So bottom line, should you get one? Yes, absolutely. The Ericson 27 is a very capable, stout little cruising sailboat that can take you places. And for a sail on a budget, she is actually relatively affordable, as most of them can be picked up somewhere between 5 to 10 grand, and let's say high-end, well-equipped, maybe 15. So have her on your shortlist. She's a really good old boat. Well folks, as we are wrapping up season 3, we want to give you a big shout out and thank you for your support. It wouldn't be possible without you. Please stick with us and follow us over as we're kicking off season 4 now of sailing good old boats. Until then, fair winds and always a hand wide water under the keel. Cheers!